Ever notice how like, yeah, sometimes you see two people and they seem to have like similar skills and talents and stuff,
Mm,
but one of them just seems to be, you know, really crushing it,
right.
living a great life, and the other one's kind of stuck.
Yeah,
Makes you wonder, like, what's that? What's the secret there?
for sure.
Well, today we're going to do a deep dive into a really interesting approach to productivity.
Okay.
And this is one that blends kind of like ancient wisdom with modern goal-setting techniques. So
Interesting.
think of it as a deep dive into how like Islamic principles can help us unlock a more fulfilling
Mm,
and, yeah, productive life.
okay. I'm interested to hear about this.
So I was reading about Fatima, right?
Mm.
The Prophet Muhammad's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like super swamped with chores and stuff.
Right.
And so she asked her father, for help.
Yeah.
And instead of like giving her a maid or something like that, he taught her this like digger,
Oh, wow.
this formula for remembering God.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't about like avoiding work, but finding this like spiritual strength to like be able to tackle it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is. It highlights a key difference, I think, between how Islam views productivity compared to maybe like a typical self-help book you'd pick up today.
Yeah.
It's not about chasing external success for its own sake.
Okay.
It's about striving for something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling your potential as a human being and as a servant of God.
Okay. So it's not about just like, grinding it out,
Right.
but like tapping into like a deeper well of energy and motivation.
Exactly. You can think of it as cultivating like a spiritual productivity,
I like that.
which impacts everything from your focus and energy to how you manage your time.
Okay.
And it's fueled by actions that connect you to your faith, like prayer
Okay.
and patiently navigating challenges.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this really kind of flips the script on that whole hustle harder mentality.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I struggle with that whole intention versus action thing. Like, does simply having good intentions count for something?
That's a great question, and it touches on a core concept in Islam.
Okay.
Intention is crucial.
Okay.
It's about aligning your actions with a sincere desire to please God.
Right.
But it's definitely not about getting a free pass.
Right.
Action is equally important.
Yeah.
Think of intention as setting your compass and action as actually taking those steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
You need both to reach your destination.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
Thanks.
It makes me think about all the times I get stuck in planning mode, just like paralyzed by overthinking everything.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
But let's be real for a second. Staying focused in today's world, it's like trying to meditate in a hurricane.
It's true.
How does this book address that constant bombardment of distractions we all face?
Well, it really emphasizes the power of disconnecting and simplifying.
Okay.
We live in a world where we constantly plugged in, bombarded with information and demands.
Yeah, for sure.
And it can be so overwhelming. So the book suggests creating pockets of stillness,
Okay.
whether it's through designated solitude zones, setting boundaries with technology,
Right.
or even just decluttering your physical space.
Mhm.
This allows for intention and focus to flourish.
That resonates with me so strongly.
Yeah.
I swear a messy desk equals a messy mind.
I feel that.
Okay, so we've talked about intentions and focus, but what about that age-old dilemma,
What's that?
time management?
Right.
We all have the same 24 hours in a day,
We do.
but some people just seem to squeeze so much more out of them.
It's true. Some people are really good at time management.
How does this book approach that?
Well, it's interesting because the Islamic concept of time is a little bit different.
Okay.
It's seen as a gift from God, a trust that you must honor.
Okay.
And this shifts your perspective from
So it's like viewing time as this precious resource, not something to be wasted or squandered.
exactly every moment is an opportunity to move closer to your goals, both worldly and spiritual.
Okay, now for like a potentially controversial topic,
What's that?
fasting.
Okay.
Many people, especially outside of Islam, might assume that fasting like hinders productivity.
That's understandable.
You're abstaining from food and drink.
Right.
Surely that leads to decreased energy and focus, right?
That's a common misconception, actually. Fasting, especially during Ramadan, can actually boost your willpower and focus.
Right, really?
Think about it. Fasting forces you to become incredibly intentional with your energy.
Ooh.
You have to prioritize tasks, minimize distractions, and essentially make every moment count.
So it's like a spiritual boot camp for your willpower.
You could say that it pushes you to develop discipline and mental resilience,
Right.
which ultimately spills over into other areas of your life.
So it's not just about like the physical aspect of it.
Uh-huh.
It's like the mental and spiritual benefits that come along with it.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's interesting because there was actually a study where non-Muslims tried fasting during Ramadan,
Oh,
and they found that it actually made them more productive.
really?
Yeah, it highlights how practices that seem restrictive at first can unlock hidden potential.
Mm-hmm.
By embracing limitations, we often discover new strengths and capabilities.
That's amazing.
It is.
So we've covered like personal energy and focus,
Right.
but Islam places a huge emphasis on community.
It does.
Where does that fit into this whole productivity equation?
Well, that's where social productivity comes in.
Okay.
It's about using your skills and resources to benefit others and contribute to the greater good.
So it's not just about personal achievement,
Right.
but also how your actions ripple outward and impact the community as a whole.
Absolutely. And it's not just grand gestures either.
Okay.
Even seemingly small acts like offering a genuine smile or visiting someone who's unwell are considered socially productive.
Wow.
These actions strengthen bonds and create a more harmonious society.
I love that it's a reminder that our actions have a ripple effect.
They do.
And even small acts of kindness can contribute to a more positive and productive environment.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about intentions, spiritual energy, even fasting.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we actually translate all this inspiration into lasting change?
That is the question, isn't
Yes,
it?
we've all had those moments of, I'm going to change my life,
Yeah,
followed by, well, not much changing.
it happens to the best of us.
How do we bridge that gap?
It's all about bridging that gap between inspiration and action.
Okay?
And that's where the power of habit building comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that habit loop, trigger, routine, reward?
Oh, yeah. I'm all about habit hacking.
Me too.
But sometimes I get so overwhelmed with all the advice out there.
It can be a lot.
Where do I even begin?
Well, instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight,
Okay.
focus on cultivating one small habit at a time.
Okay, one habit.
Think of it as a 30-day challenge.
Hmm.
Choose one specific action you want to implement and commit to it consistently for 30 days straight.
Okay, no excuses.
No excuses.
I like that. I like that approach.
It's about making those small, consistent changes that lead to big results over time.
Okay, that's a great starting point.
It is.
But before we dive deeper into that,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All right, so tell me more about this 30-day challenge.
Okay, so imagine you're trying to build like a new habit.
Okay.
It's like working out a muscle you've never used before.
Right.
It's going to be tough at first,
Yeah.
but the more you do it, the stronger it gets.
Makes sense.
That's basically the idea behind the 30-day challenge.
So you're saying if we commit to something for 30 days straight,
Exactly.
it'll become easier over time.
It's like building that muscle memory.
I like that analogy.
So let's say you want to start waking up early for prayer.
Okay.
You set that as your 30-day challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, you get up and pray at that time every single day for 30 days.
So consistency is key.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
It's about building that discipline.
Right.
And rewiring your brain to make that new behavior automatic.
So it becomes less about willpower and more about just doing it.
Exactly. It becomes a part of who you are.
That's powerful.
It is. And the beauty of this approach
Yeah.
is that it can be applied to any area of your life.
Okay, so it's not just limited to spiritual practices.
Not at all. It could be anything you want to improve.
Like what?
Like, let's say you want to be more mindful of how you spend your time.
Okay.
You can set a 30-day challenge to track your time for a whole month.
And that would help you become more aware of where your time is going.
Exactly. And once you're aware of it,
Yeah.
you can start making changes to be more intentional with how you use it.
So it's about awareness leading to action.
Precisely. And the 30-day challenge is that initial push to get you started.
Okay, so that's like the first step.
It's the first step. But what about after those 30 days?
That's a good question.
How do we make sure these new habits actually stick?
Well, the good news is that once you've successfully completed a 30-day challenge, you've already built a solid foundation.
You've proven to yourself that you can do it.
Exactly. You've broken through that initial resistance
Okay.
and established a new pattern of behavior.
So it becomes easier to maintain that habit.
It does. But of course, it still requires effort.
Right. You can't just expect it to magically stick forever.
It's like a plant you've nurtured.
Okay.
You still need to water it and give it sunlight.
So ongoing maintenance is key.
Exactly, but the roots are already there.
Okay. That's a good way to put it.
And over time, those roots will grow stronger.
And the habit will become even more deeply ingrained.
Exactly.
So the 30-day challenge is just the beginning.
It's a springboard to a more productive and fulfilling life.
I love that. And speaking of a more fulfilling life,
Yeah.
remember how we were talking about social productivity
Mm-hmm.
and using our skills and resources to benefit others?
Right. The idea of contributing to the greater good.
Well, I think that's a really important aspect of making these habits stick.
How's...
Well, when you're focused on something bigger than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a sense of purpose.
Right. Yep.
And that purpose can be a powerful motivator.
It's like having a why behind your actions.
Exactly. So let's say you're working on being more mindful of your time.
Okay.
And you realize that you're spending way too much time on social media.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
So you decide to cut back.
Mm.
But instead of just thinking about it as like depriving yourself,
Right.
you reframe it as freeing up time
Okay.
to do something more meaningful,
I like that.
like volunteering or spending time with loved ones.
So you're using that reclaimed time for something that benefits others.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective
Yeah.
can make all the difference.
It's like turning a negative into a positive.
And that positive energy
Mm-hmm.
can help you stay motivated on your journey towards a more productive and fulfilling life.
It makes a lot of sense.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay. I'm listening.
Don't underestimate the power of small, consistent actions
Mm-hmm.
taken over time.
Yeah.
They can have a profound impact on your life.
I agree, and I think that's a great message to end on.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the power of intention to the surprising benefits of fasting and that whole idea of social productivity.
Right.
But now I want to zoom in a little bit
Okay.
and talk about some practical strategies for actually living this stuff out.
Yeah. How do we take all this amazing information and make it work in our everyday lives?
Right, because it's one thing to talk about it.
Yeah,
It's another thing to actually do it.
for sure.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to remember that this is a journey.
Okay.
It's not about achieving perfection overnight.
Right.
It's about taking small steps consistently over time.
Okay. So no need to overwhelm ourselves.
Exactly. Start with something manageable, something you can actually stick with.
Like what?
Well, it could be something as simple as committing to praying 5 times a day.
Okay.
If you're not already doing that.
Right.
Or maybe it's incorporating more dhikr into your daily routine. Even just 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a big difference.
So it's about starting small and building from there.
Exactly. And as you start to feel more comfortable, you
Yeah.
can gradually increase the intensity or duration of your practice.
Okay. So it's like a gradual progression.
It is, and it's important to be patient with yourself.
Right.
There will be days when you feel super motivated
Mm-hmm.
and days when you just don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's okay. It's all part of the process.
So what do we do on those days when we're just not feeling it?
Well, that's where having a strong why comes in.
Right. Like remembering the purpose behind our actions.
Exactly. Why are you doing this in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
What are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve?
And how does this particular action fit into that bigger picture?
Right. Because when you have a clear sense of purpose, it's easier to push through those moments of resistance.
It's like having that extra fuel to keep you going.
It is, and it's also helpful to have a support system in place.
Oh, yeah, like people who can encourage us and keep us accountable.
Exactly. Whether it's a friend, a family member, a mentor, or even an online community,
Right.
having people to share your journey with can make all the difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders in your corner,
And sometimes you need that extra boost.
especially when you're facing challenges.
Right, because challenges are inevitable.
They are.
But it's how we respond to them that really matters.
So what's the best way to deal with setbacks?
Well, first of all, don't beat yourself up.
Okay.
Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has moments of weakness.
Right. It's part of being human.
It is. So instead of dwelling on the setback,
Okay.
try to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What could you have done differently?
Okay.
And how can you prevent it from happening again?
So it's like turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly. And remember that setbacks are temporary.
Right.
They don't define you.
It's about getting back up and continuing on your journey.
Exactly. And that's where that support system we talked about can be so helpful.
Right. Because they can remind us of our why.
And help us stay focused on the bigger picture.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to emphasize one key point.
Okay, what's that?
Progress over perfection.
I love that.
It's not about doing everything perfectly.
Right.
It's about making consistent effort over time.
And celebrating those small wins along the way.
Because those small wins add up to big results.
They do.
And so to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
I want to encourage you to embrace this journey with all its ups and downs.
Yeah.
Remember that you're not alone,
We're all in this together.
and that even small steps taken consistently can lead to incredible transformations.
Oh, I believe that.
So keep diving deep, keep exploring, keep growing, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.